Welcome to another 10 to 20 with Tanya. I'm Tanya. And have you ever wondered where school buses come from? You may know that I live in a school bus. I'm here in my school bus today, and I have started a new series of where things, common everyday things in American life, started, where they came from. And today I'm going to be talking specifically about where school buses came from, how they started to look the way that they do, and things like that. So, welcome to everyone who is joining live and to everyone who is watching the recording. Today, you're going to learn vocabulary in one of the best ways you possibly can, which is to hear it in a story, to hear it in context, to hear it in the news, in a movie, something like that. So, it's great to have you here. I'm curious what school buses look like in your country. In in the United States, you may have seen a school bus that comes from the United States, but I know that they're not the same in every country. So let's start by telling me where you're listening from. If you're listening live or if you're listening to the recording, where are you listening from? What country are you in? I always like to have the chance to chat with you. One of the best parts about live videos here on YouTube is that you can interact with me, which is one of the most important things we need for learning a language. We need to interact with each other. Listening is super important, reading is super important, but interacting is um, so important. The whole reason that we learn a language is so that we can connect with other people, so we can interact with other people. So, welcome. It's great to see some of our regulars joining. I see we have Turkey and Mexico so far. I know we have some others. I am here in California again today. You may know I'm based in Southern California, but I've been traveling in my school bus around the United States, and I have traveled to more than 10 states in the last 3 months. So in, like 90 days, I have traveled to 10 states, and I'm gonna be telling more about that here on the YouTube channel. So, what color are school buses in your country? Let me know in the comments, what color are school buses in your country? You may know the color of school buses in the United States, but you may not know what I'm going to tell you about my experience with the color of school buses in the United States. So let me have a drink of water or tea. I have my iced tea here. So let's talk about the history of school buses in the United States so that you can practice your English. The first US school buses were actually not vehicles like we see today, but rather horse-drawn carriages. So horse-drawn means the horses pulled them. So I'll put that word there, horse-drawn. I put it in the chat. And if you were a child who got on the school bus, it was a horse that made the school bus go. Now, this, if you think about it, this is not too surprising, but I just never really thought about that before. Here in the United States in 1939, so there's a chance for you to practice a number. In 1939, they had a national conference to choose the color of American buses, which is a special yellow color. In fact, that color is called school bus yellow, and they got together to decide on what color school buses would be, and they decided on that because the yellow is visible. I've got some notes here. And especially in the early morning when people are riding school buses and in the late afternoon, that yellow color is very visible. And I see that Ida has told us that in Mexico, school buses are yellow. So I'm curious, is there anyone here today who, or listening to the recording, that school buses are a different color than yellow? Because I know that in some countries, they are a different color. And they standardized at that time in 1939, they standardized school buses, the way they looked, the color that they would be, and all of those kinds of things. So standardized means that they made a decision that they would all look a certain way. And that happened in 1939. All right. So why did they choose the shape and the color and the design? So the big size makes sense because again, it makes it more visible. If we say something is visible, it's easy to see. And they made in the United States, the back is flat. So the back of my school bus here is totally flat. And if you see other cars and things, the backs are not flat. This makes it easier to see. And uh, we could say it makes it easier to spot. Easier to spot means easier to see. You can spot it, see it among a lot of other things. And they standardize the stop sign arm. Our school buses have a stop sign that go in and out like this. I recently took the stop sign off my bus and I need to patch the holes. I need to patch the holes where the school bus arm, we call it an arm because it moved like this, was. I need to patch the holes, meaning uh, fix it so those holes are no longer there. So I am curious if this is true of what school buses look like in your country. Let me know. I see that in Belarus, school buses are also yellow. Thank you, Max, for letting us know that. And I see that Jose has joined us from Guatemala. Welcome, everyone, for this special live today. So, what are some of the regulations, the road regulations? So, I had a student that follows me here on YouTube ask me recently to talk a little bit about these road regulations. Regulations are like rules, laws, road regulations. And in most US states, drivers have to stop when a school bus has its stop sign out and the red lights are flashing. So there's red lights on the front and on the back, and these red lights flash. And of course, it makes sense that you have to stop, but you have to stop in both directions. Of course, this is to keep the children safe. Passing a school bus is illegal and can mean a heavy fine or a license suspension. If your license is suspended could mean something hangs from above, but if your license is suspended, it means you can't use your license for a certain amount of time. It could be, I don't know, it might be several weeks or months. I don't know exactly what the suspension is, but these things are regulated, there's that word again, in the different states. And I wonder if your country has special rules like this. If you are a driver in your country, do you whether or not traffic has to stop in both directions and what some of the rules are about school buses in your country? So I also want to talk a little bit about what it has been like for me to live in my school bus. And if you've been following along, you've seen some of the videos I've already made about uh, taking everything out of the school bus and making the inside of the school bus. So I'm going to talk about that more today too. But I also want to let you know that if you're joining me here today, actually, I shouldn't have said it like that. If if you want to get more of the vocabulary that I'm talking about today, then you can join my free More English Club. And the link is in the description below. And when I make a story video like this, and I have several other videos that have the vocabulary with them, you can get the vocabulary list that goes along with the story so that it will help you to learn and remember the vocabulary that I'm using here. So, a little bit more about living in the school bus. I have absolutely loved living in the school bus because it's cozy. Cozy is a word I know a lot of students like to use, which means that it feels warm and safe inside the bus. It feels like a warm, inviting place to be. And the school bus is very cozy. And I don't know if you can see some of the trees, a little bit. You can see some of the trees outside today. It's very light. So sometimes there's trees outside my window, but because I travel, I have always something different. And the windows, these are the typical school bus windows that you will see in all school buses in the United States, are one of the main reasons I chose a school bus for my little tiny home. So I see that Bulut Sarai says, there is no same color bus in my country like your country. That's very interesting. So I wonder if what you mean is school buses are different colors than each other. Welcome from Spain. It's great to have you here. Max says we don't have the same road regulations for school buses. That would be, where did Max say was Belarus? That's very interesting, as you have in the US. So that's interesting that in different countries, maybe the buses look differently, but also there are different regulations in different countries. So let me talk a little bit about fun facts. Have you ever heard a teacher talk about fun facts? If so, give me a thumbs up, or you can click on, I always click point in the wrong direction on the heart over here. So one of the fun facts about school buses is that around 480,000 school buses in the US, that's more than any other public transit combined. 480,000 school buses in the United States. So this is a really great way to test your hearing because I put the number in the chat, 480,000 school buses. And when they chose the yellow color, they didn't just choose any yellow color. Espy. Espy is here. I don't know if you can hear her barking. Look at me. Look at me, Espy. Look at me, buddy. Come right here. Espy likes to tell me whenever there's somebody outside. Espy, look at me. Espy. Pardon me for a minute while I see if I can get Espy to pay attention to being quiet here for a minute. I have a treat for her. So I was just saying when they chose the yellow color, it's interesting because her treat bag is similar to the yellow color of school buses. They didn't just say, okay, it's got to be any yellow color. They tested out different shades of yellow. So I wonder if you've heard this word shades. Let me put it in the chat. Different shades of yellow to find out which one would be the best. And I did the same thing when I painted the bus. So if you heard me talking about painting the bus, do you know what color I have painted the bus? And I can tell you, I also looked at different shades of colors to paint the bus. I see we have Germany joining us now. Welcome from Germany. Uh, and what color are school buses in Germany? I've been learning German really, really slowly. My second language is Spanish, and since I've been living in the bus, I've been so busy that learning my third language has taken a back seat, which is a great idiom for this particular live. When we say something has taken a back seat, we mean that we haven't had as much time for it as we had in the past. We haven't been able to work on it as much. It has taken a back seat. I'm going to put that here. It has taken a back seat. Um, Max says a shade is like a tone of color, isn't it? Yes, it's very similar. And I will say that people who are not painters or artists think of them as the same. But shade and tone both are about light and dark. And if I were giving you an art lesson, I would go into more detail. But if you just talk to any uh, person, an average person would say, yes, shade and tone are very similar to each other. Okay, um, another fun fact is that many people, adults and children's, not children's, don't say children's, adults and children is the plural of child, think of some of their fondest memories are around school buses. Some of their fondest school memories are around school buses. So there's a great word, fond, to be fond of something. I'm going to put that in the chat, to be fond of something. And also these words will be on the vocabulary list. If you are a member of the free More English Club, it will come right to your email. And that link again is down below. So to have a fond memory is a good memory, a lovely memory that you have. And school buses are often a part of fond memories for people who think back on their school days. Kind of stuttering today. Stuttering is when you speak a little like I did, school days. It's actually, we had a whole interesting lesson, or not lesson, but that was the topic of one of our conversation groups in one of my classes that I give. And it was really interesting to learn a lot more about stuttering than I had known before, while also learning vocabulary and things like that. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is why, or not why, but the name that people give school buses, if they live in them like I do, or if they've changed them to be something else. School buses have been changed to be so many different things because they're very strong. Um, they last for a long time. They're very well built, and the schools usually retire a school bus, meaning that they don't use them anymore. They retire the school bus and then they will sell them. And a lot of times, like I did, you can get them for a very good price. And because they're very well built and they often last for 30 or 40 years, so they still have 15 or 20 years left for driving and using, people will make them into homes like I have, or cafes and bookstores and all kinds of interesting things. So is this something you do in your country? Are there people who make old school buses into different things? It's, I would say, most common to use them for other types of commercial vehicles, like churches will use them to drive people from their church, or different places will also use them. I know there's a place in Arizona where you can ride a inner tube, which is the inside of a tire, down the river. And that organization, you get in an old school bus to go up the river and then you float down the river. So they're used for many things. And then we have a special name for them. If any of my students from my in-person classes are here, they know this name. Do you know what we call these school buses that are made into something different like this? If you know what the name is, put the name in the chat and I will check my notes and see if there's anything else I want to be sure and tell you before we finish up today or wrap up our live video. And I want to know also if you have any questions. Put your questions in the chat or in the comments if you're listening to the recording. And have you ever seen a school bus in a movie, and can you think of a movie that centers around school buses? We have a special, um, television show for children called The Magic School Bus, so that's a little bit of our culture here. People will tease me about having a magic school bus because culturally we think of this children's show. Hovercraft. That would be a great name to call old school buses. That's not typically what we call them, but that would be a great name, a hovercraft. I see that Sydney says hovercraft. I wonder if anyone else has any guesses? The name that we use, I'm writing it in the chat now, but keep guessing if you'd like to. The name is Skoolie. So I talk about my bus as my Skoolie because it's an old school bus. So, thank you for joining me here today. I have lots of live videos for you to watch that all have lots of vocabulary like this. If you would like to watch one of those videos, you can find the link below, or you could look for my story video playlist, which has a lot of different vocabulary and phrases for you to use to sound more natural. And I will look forward to seeing you in another live soon. Bye bye.